Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney. Happy to have Miss Whitney West here. We finally got her on the podcast after she turned me down multiple times. So really appreciate her coming down and a little old podcast. No, I'm just kidding. How are you doing today, Miss West?
I'm doing so well. Thanks for finally allowing me to be on the podcast.
You got it. Guys, before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, dreamchasers.com, Adam Carswell. Go check him out. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast. So for you, COVID was an interesting thing. So you can tell your story or start it from wherever you want, but I'll let you go from there and we'll kind of talk about what you're doing now and the changes in your life.
Yeah, definitely. It has been quite an interesting year. Especially now that we're in March, I can officially say it's been a year since all of these changes and everything have kind of come into play for me. When last March, to give you a little background, I'm the VP of operations for a company called the Commencement Group. And basically, we work with universities throughout the country and we provide professional services at their commencement ceremonies. So you can imagine last year, COVID hits, March is schools are starting to say, hey, we're not going to have commencement this year. And basically, we ended up by the end of March, no one was going to have commencement. So my company, we actually went into a furlough, and I had been with them. It's been 8 years I've been with them. Love this company. We are back on now. So bit of good news there. But it was the first time I was questioning my financial security. Before that, I was just living the life, traveling, living in luxury apartments, just spending. I was making good money. So I was living that way. I didn't have a backup plan though. I didn't have anything else in sight or in mind. So I ended up leaving Atlanta. I was living in Midtown at the time. I left Atlanta in the end of March last year, and I moved home to New Jersey to be with my family for a little bit. Because I didn't want to be trapped alone in an apartment. And I also didn't want to be spending $2,700 a month on an apartment, to be trapped in it. So came home and kind of had a reset. I got my health back. I lost 20 pounds. I was reading every day. I was doing all this stuff. And then one day, some of my friends that live in Atlanta, they approached me and they were like, hey, we're going to start investing in real estate. Would you be interested? And I knew nothing. Austin knew nothing about it at the time. And I was just I guess I had nothing else going on. And yeah, I just started learning about it, became obsessed. We bought a fourplex in September and here we are.
So no, nothing. And then boom, we're here. But what's interesting, I want to highlight something prior. I truly believe that, I don't wish on all the troubles that have come with COVID, and I don't wish any of that thing. But for me, I did it on purpose. I read 40 books in 60 days. And I was working out every day, and I choose that to take that time to really invest in myself and really figure out some stuff about me and level up. I learned a little Spanish, these are the things.
Yes.
And so, and I see that you did the same thing. And so we, when things happen like that or something hits us, you have an opportunity to look at it as a positive thing, or you have a way to look at it to complain. And what do you think sparked kind of I'm curious, now that you look back a year from now and you invested some properties and the business is back on, do you see it as a blessing, or do you see it as you wish that your normal life was just clipping along And, how do you see it?
Totally as a blessing. And again, I hate to say that as well, because I know the heartache that COVID has brought on for millions. It's horrible. But yes, I do have to personally be grateful for the time that it has given me to take a step back and kind of just look at my life in a different perspective. And, like you said, level up. It's so, and I find myself like now I'm so into the self-development and the mindset stuff, things that I was completely neglecting before. I just it was not part of my life. I just, I was in the grind all the time, just working to be able to travel and be able to do things. But now I'm just like, I'm so excited to work on myself every day and, make those slight improvements and changes. And it's just, I don't know that this ever would have happened if I didn't get that time from COVID and kind of get that reset.
100%. And ultimately, if I could probably like describe it for you, I feel like almost when you find personal development or you start working on yourself, it's almost like water from a fire hydrant. Like it's like, it's like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Like I feel better. Because here's the rub is that everybody works their whole life or they're grinding, right? Well, that's the quintessential. Like I'm trying to remove like I'm busy from my vocabulary. Like I can't stand that. We need to remove that. Like I'm full. Like somebody said to me, yes, I'm full. I'm full because I choose to be. And you almost like have to like compartmentalize it because you're so excited to get to the next like breakthrough, but understanding that like it's going to take time, like real estate investing and all these things, and health is a constant thing. So what I try to tell everybody is if you incorporate it as a lifestyle, like then that really sits in with you. I see you like driving for dollars on like a Sunday and you're walking the neighborhood, like you're looking for houses, and it's kind of becoming like a lifestyle obsession per se. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely try to incorporate it into like things I like to do because I love getting out and running and walking around neighborhoods. And, I've always had an interest in like looking at houses and stuff, but now I just look at them through a whole nother lens. And honestly, the whole thing with real estate, what I've come to love, and I didn't even realize at first was such a huge tie, but the connection between real estate and mindset and like the whole community, I feel like is very much because it's built of like entrepreneurs. It's all people that are trying to, develop themselves. And so the two things coincide so closely. And I feel like I've fallen in love with all the mindset stuff because of getting involved in real estate in the first place, which is cool.
You can study all the real estate books. You can go to all the meetups. You can go, read multifamily. You can read about flipping. You can do all those things. But ultimately, if your mind is set up to handle the obstacles and understand why you're doing it, and it creates this like barrier of like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to work and we're going to be good and I'm going to talk good about myself and, all these things, then it makes the investing part of it so much easier on a confidence level to be able to put money into a deal or work on a deal, knowing you're working towards the right direction instead of just saying, well, like, whatever, somebody said something to me a while back. They said, the podcast about real estate and multifamily, like, is great, but if you don't have your mindset, then it's basically just filler. It's just filler details. And it's very important. It's something I harp on for people. It's like, go get your mind right, your health right first. And I promise you that real estate investing is going to be super easy when you get down to the mechanisms of it.
100%. And I think that too, like, one thing I've been like grappling with over the past few weeks and months really is like the feeling of needing to be like the perfect investor, especially once you start getting involved in like the social media of things and you see other people and what they're doing, and you kind of fall into the trap of, okay, I need to do this, that, and the other to be like a good investor. And like, I started to, especially working on so much self-development, I was just realizing like, I'm so new to this, and it's okay if like I need to take a step back at certain times and like just reevaluate what I love about it, what direction I want to go, like what I want to focus on. Because at first I was just like, okay, let me choose one thing and go for it. Great. Like we bought multifamily and we were, going to keep doing that. Great. But at the same time, I'm like, I started like yesterday. I need some time to figure out like, am I really passionate about this aspect of it? Or do I want to take on more of like a passive role and like, or, all sorts of things that go through your head when you're first starting up. And it can be so easy to just deter yourself because you're like, oh no, like I shouldn't be having all these thoughts. I need to focus on one thing. When in reality, it's so natural when you're new to something to need to, figure out everything about how you interact with that thing and like what it means for you to be an investor and no one else.
Like you just said, one of the most important, this is the entire antithesis of the podcast, is understanding that, and it takes some time, like understanding that you see a guy out there and let's say he's making $60,000 from a wholesale fee. And you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing and I'm gonna go do that. And it's like, yeah, I know, but he's like young and he's single and he doesn't have responsibilities and he can call for 12 hours or they've set up a system that he learned from somebody that he paid $6,000 to be in. It's like that's why my heart, like my push with everybody is like, what do you want your lifestyle to look back like? And so my issue is I think too many people are getting in there and investing thinking they need to have control of it. And it's like, you can be a passive investor and be involved and still get the excitement from it, but be able to do your job and give back on impacts wise. Like my whole goal is like moving into the later years of my life to be a bank. Like, I don't give a shit if the plumber shows up. Like, I'm not like, I'm going to Costa Rica tomorrow. Like, I'm not trying to get a text message. Like, I'm trying to be on a beach in like Bali and shit. I don't want to get a text message if the fucking, I don't. So now we set up all of our businesses. Can I fire myself from this business? Okay, well then that makes sense. Then what do I want to do? I can do A, B, C, but I'm not going to do D, F, G. And here's the kicker: is it's scary because you're leaving money on the table, but it's not affecting your lifestyle because you're getting out of what you want from it, and that takes a long time to understand clarity-wise what that looks like. So I love that you're not getting so excited with just like the initial stuff. You're saying, well, now my job's back on. Yeah. And I can still invest, but it doesn't have to be my everything, right? And I want to help people and stuff. So how did they talk you into this first deal? and what did you know when you got into this first deal? How much did you know? Did you even know what a fourplex was?
Yes, I did know what a fourplex was. So basically we started talking about it in like late June, July, and it was, I was always obsessed with like HGTV, and I like the thought of being able to make something that's not, like that's an old and ugly house into something beautiful. Like I like that design aspect of everything. So I was kind of going into it like, okay, this is what we're going to do and it'll be awesome. And I'm going in with these girls that I'm already really great friends with, and we're all such hard workers. So it'll be awesome. And we would meet like 2 or 3 times a week, talk about deals. We would put in a lot of offers. We finally got this off-market fourplex. In early August, we put in an offer on, it was accepted. But it took a whole entire like month and a half to close. It was like a whole tumultuous process. Like so many times we didn't think it was going to happen, and it ended up pulling through. We did it as an FHA loan in my name because at the time, again, not knowing that much, we were like, okay, this is the only way we can get this property. Let's do it. Would we do it differently now? Probably, because now like I have an FHA in my name. I'm house hacking it. I'm tying back to mindset stuff. I'm not happy house hacking it anymore. Like again, trying to be perfect investor was like, oh, house hacking. That's what everyone tells you to do to be financially free. Like, let me do this. Let me be this, house hacker. And like slowly realizing over the past few months, like I'm sacrificing my happiness. And that's not something like I'm willing to sacrifice, especially because I have the means to live differently, especially with my job being back on. So.
All right. Now we're talking. Now I see my opening. We just entered a therapy session. Yes.
Okay. I was just going to say, like, I haven't said these things out loud to a lot of people. So now it's going to be publicly out loud.
So what I want to ask first is what happened leading up to the deal in that month and a half when you thought it was going to fall through a bunch of times, just to share your experience so maybe you can give some value to other people.
Yeah.
What kept happening in the deal?
So our issue was the appraisal. It wouldn't appraise because it is a fourplex, but the town classifies it as they recently rezoned, made it like so it had to be a duplex, and so the appraisal companies weren't picking it up because it is 4 separate units with 4 separate kitchens, all the separate amenities. But appraisal companies weren't picking it up because they were like, I have nothing to compare this to. They can get in trouble if they appraise something and it's not, what it actually is. So it took a long time to get someone who would actually appraise it. And when it appraised, it came in like right over what our offer was. So it was like an interesting, just so emotional, such an emotional roller coaster. We would get information one day and then the next it would be like completely different. And we would just be, it was crazy. And to the point where when we finally got word that, yep, this is going to close, none of us knew how to even act. We were like, okay, it's happening. We're going to inherit tenants. It was just a lot at once that we were like, okay, we're jumping into the fire.
How's everybody doing, guys? I want to talk today about our sponsor for May. A good friend of mine, Mark Simpson, runs a company, boostly.co.uk. Guys, everybody knows that I'm in the short-term rental space for many years. And I think one of the quotes he said to me was, you can't build your real estate on somebody else's property. And it really resonated with me because we are so reliant on an Airbnb, a HomeAway, these systems, right? And headed into this year, it's very important that we get direct bookings, and they're the best in the business at this. So in 2021, everybody needs to be building a website to create direct bookings, and you can't rely on Airbnb. Plus, you're giving them a ton of money. And so 64% of all the websites are powered by WordPress, and these private message companies that offer you the free website, they're not on WordPress. And so it's this trick that they're doing. And, these guys are the best in the business, the best in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I use them. I'm saying that because they are. It's the simple fact is that they service over 600 clients worldwide, and you need to get this done. And you can get it started for as little as $99 a month. And you could do that with 1 property, 100 properties. But you need to be capturing emails. You need to be sending direct marketing back to these guests. And the way to do that is to create a website. And these guys are the best in the business. When you get direct bookings, you're saving money every year and the profit margins can be exponential. And so if you want to learn more about them, head on over to boostly.co.uk/constructyourlife. Not only is Mark a great entrepreneur and CEO, but he's a great person as well. Yeah, because there's the talk about it, and then there's the signature, and then there's like, oh, there's tenants, and we have to become a landlord, and we have to do it. But here's the great thing: regardless of where your investing trip goes from here on out, you've already closed on more units than a lot of people do in 2 years.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, so here's what people don't understand about fear, right? I'm not saying go haphazardly into investing. That's not what I'm saying. But because now we've gone through it and you did it anyway, you dumped 4 units already. And so it's like you might be at like 15 in a year, right? Because we didn't go, and I'm not suggesting this, but I'm saying you didn't go house and then you got another one a year later. Like we just went boom, like we're there, right?
Right.
So even though ultimately house hacking wise might not be where your head's at, you at least know the property enough as a landlord to know what needs to be fixed. And so you got that time in the space to be able to communicate with your tenant. So
definitely,
after you close on the property finally and it sunk in, like what did y'all do next when it comes to the property?
We did. So the property didn't need like crazy renovations. It was all like DIY stuff, flooring, paint, subway tile in the kitchen, different things like that. It really was in pretty good shape, this property. So there were 2 units on the left side that had tenants in them. We didn't do anything to those. They just stayed the same. And then the 2 units on the right, the bottom unit was the one that I moved into. And then the upper unit, the sellers actually stayed and paid us back rent for like a month and a half. And then they left and we got into their unit and renovated and rented it out. So, but yeah, light renovations, all do it yourself, which was cool. It was definitely like fun experience at the time to do that kind of stuff. Like I really enjoyed the hands-on stuff, but at the same time, like I know now, like I'm the kind of investor that I'm happy hiring a contractor. Yeah. That's what I see myself doing.
Mm-hmm. But at least you went into it knowing now I don't feel like you would get taken advantage of by a contractor because you've seen some aspects of it. And that doesn't mean that you want to do it forward. It just means that, you've done what you needed to do. And so I caution people, even though it might not be exactly what you want to do, get your hands dirty on the first couple so you can know like, hey, that costs this costs that, because, and ultimately, like if somebody did this to me with a car, they were like, hey, we need like $7,000 to flip the, to fix the arm, elbow RW2. I'd be like, okay, sounds good. Like, cause I don't know anything about cars. So like, be careful that you haven't put your hands on it yourself. Like, and then you can kind of understand what you're doing from there.
Definitely, for sure. And I know there are certain things like I enjoy doing. Like I enjoy subway tile. I enjoy tiling. I hate painting. I'm bad at painting. I know I could get better, but am I willing to? Not necessarily. So
yeah, for sure. No, I'm not a painter either. I want nothing. So you move into it and you're living there, and then the tenants are there, and kind of the job starts back up. So talk to us about like you win FHA loan, which is a responsibility. Obviously, like you're happy for the people that you're invested in, like you're happy to take on the loan. But just talk to us about what you've learned now that maybe you wish you would have told yourself in the beginning.
I think I would have told myself that that my non-negotiable is really my happiness in terms of like living situation. Because I think the living situation, I moved in, that's like late September, and I was fine living there when other people would like be there. Like my one partner, Bridget, she was down there with me for the first 2 weeks, like living with me. And I was fine when that was the case, but living on your own in a house hack, and it's definitely a different, like I used to live in Midtown Atlanta and it was lively and there's, I could go and there were people everywhere. And now I'm in a suburb of Atlanta where it's not as lively. And I'm in this like studio where there's one window and I love natural light and I'm not getting it. And, I live by myself. So it's like an isolating thing. It's not like I was there with a partner that, would make the experience better or easier. I didn't have that. So I think now I'm just like, I know FHA, I probably will get in trouble for saying this, but like FHA, you're supposed to live there. I get that, but thank you.
You're good. You don't even want to know what I did. So you're good. Just do what you want to. Just, hey.
Austin, I'm such a rule follower.
Just make sure that your electric bill is in your name in the house.
I'm such a rule follower though that like
I ran Airbnb out of it the whole time. So you're good.
Thank you. That's very reassuring because I'm at the point where now.
But more importantly, to make you very uncomfortable, because I know I can. What does that say more about your personality that you would prefer people be around you more than be on your own? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that. I'm just messing with you.
No, it's not even that. It's just the energy of like seeing people, like even just people watching.
That's where I wanted to go, because this is what people don't understand. Everybody, me included, and my business partners and everybody are at different phases of their life. And understand that a situation for somebody, like we live in North Austin, like 30 minutes north, in like a town that's expanding. There's nothing going on in this fucking town. But I am on this 24/7 and I'm working or we travel, right? And so the question is I don't need that stuff. I don't need that. Like I go to my gym, I work out. That's for me because I'm building businesses. When you're like, people don't understand that environment, like in energy and being around other like-minded individuals and that sizzle, you know, when you're young. Dude, I lived in downtown Austin when I was young and worked in downtown Austin. It was fun. There was people around and there's everything going on. And what people don't understand is what really was taken from them with COVID, and besides all the bad stuff, was the connectivity with people. Like Zoom is great, but it's only so much. And so when you take that and then you add, I moved to the suburbs, it's like this fucking like perfect storm of not great, right? Yeah. And so the question, not that you're upset about it, it's just your happiness is important. So the question that I'm curious about is what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to get back to the hustle and bustle?
So I am going to move out and I'm going to move into an apartment in Midtown off the Beltline. Amazing area. I'm obsessed with it. And I was so embarrassed to admit that even like a couple weeks ago, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going from house hacking and this perfect investor to now I'm going to be paying rent again. And then like I had to stop and think about it. I was just like, my living situation, if I'm happy with it and if I'm able to afford it, which I definitely am, if I'm happy in my living situation, it's going to accelerate all the other parts of my life because I'm not going to be stressed about it. Not only was I not getting like natural light or seeing people in the house hack, but my tenant neighbor's dog would keep me up till 2 a.m. barking. And the family that lives upstairs sounds like their kids are falling through the roof constantly. And it's fine. And I know people, I can deal with it, but it was stressing me out. And I was just like, I shouldn't be stressed about this. I can go live somewhere else and get my mental health back and be able to be better in all other aspects of my life.
This is so super important. So just to make you feel better again, I own property and I'm paying rent in an apartment right now. So you're good.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Just the therapy I needed.
But more importantly, and this is something that I had to learn the wrong way, right? And you know what? I never shared this story with anybody. And so long story short, we tore down our garage and we built a little 300 square foot, 250, 275 square foot apartment back there. Mm-hmm. And when I was waiting tables and I started Airbnb with my ex-wife, we lived in there because the house was making so much damn money, right? And that we lived in it. And there was like one window in it and it's one room and you're working in there and you're living in this small space and there's no door on the bathroom, like all this shit, right? And like ultimately, I'm so hungry to make some sort of dollar amount, right? Or like create something or like, like, fuck it. Like, it's fine. We can sacrifice. We can do all this shit. And what I didn't and don't get me wrong. This is not the only reason it's a part of a part why we got divorced, but I didn't realize how much our environment was affecting us personally. Yeah. And I'm still guilty of it, but now I'm seeing the value in having a place that has a lot of light, having a place that you can go hike a mountain close by, having a place that you're surrounded by people that support you and care about you, and understanding that ultimately I'm all about sacrifice. I'm all about doing what you need to, but there's an element to being the landlord and living there too, that you never feel like you can turn off and be yourself.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? And so there is that part of house hacking works. And don't get me wrong, it does work, but you're also always on, right, with your tenants, because and so now you can't turn your music up too loud, and you can't, have a bunch of people over because you're the landlord. You have to set an example. And who wants to live in that straitjacket? That's what I feel like you've basically been living in a straitjacket, and it's not right, because it's affecting your mood. It's affecting who you are. It's affecting all these things. And so you're allowing yourself the freedom to say, my happiness is more important than how it looks on the surface. And that's why you're going to succeed over and over again, because you're realizing that's so important to you and to yourself,
Exactly. And I know that I will be, like I said, better in all other aspects of my life, and I'll be able to be a better partner to my business partners, and, employee to my W-2, and just in general, just taking that extra stress away.
So before we get out of here, I want to talk about this. You went from never be on a podcast, you went from not know much about real estate, to decided that you were going to start an investor group in Atlanta. And so where do you get off? No, I'm just kidding. But more importantly, but no, that's a big step. It's a huge step in kind of talking about why you thought that would be a good thing for you to position yourself that way.
Yeah. So the InvestHER community, I actually found that I saw something they were doing back in December. They were doing an annual event that they do. And I just thought to myself, okay, obviously real estate is such a male dominated industry. And I was like, strung out on Bigger Pockets. I would listen to that all the time. And I was just kind of like, all right, let me check out this group of female investors. And I went to their event, and I immediately just felt so good, so welcome, so inspired. I've always been about female empowerment, and in everything that I've done, I always am supporting other women. And I just felt so welcome in the community. And I realized as I started going through their website, they didn't have a meetup in Atlanta. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to shoot my shot and apply, because in the company I'm in now, I lead a lot of our meetings, and I'm familiar with, being a leader in that sense. So I was like, you know what, I might not be that experienced, but I know how to hype people up, and I know how to talk to people, and I know how to bring people together. So I applied, and they interviewed me, and they were like, you got the job. And I was like, okay, here we go. So it all kind of unfolded. I wasn't expecting it to, but I think that's the coolest part about every chance we take. What's the worst that can happen? They say, no, you're not ready, or no, try in a couple of years. Cool. If that's the case, great. But they said yes. So, you never know until you apply. You never know until you ask. And I'm really excited about it.
Well, and then ultimately, you took your shot, which is great, and you never know what's going to happen. Where do you see the value in just being kind of in the forefront to allow people an avenue to step into investing? Because it can be so daunting, right? Especially you're talking to somebody, and where I don't like is when anybody makes people feel bad for not knowing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts. I think the value that I'm personally bringing, I feel like I'm very, very approachable, and I am constantly there when people ask me questions or need something from me. I will do my best to answer and connect people, and no judgment on my end ever of any questions, because I'm like, I know nothing. I know nothing about real estate. I know nothing about life. I am a lifelong learner. Every day I'm, working to be better. And I would never judge anyone else on where they are in life. So I feel like that does make me very approachable for these women. And being the meetup leader, people want to talk to you about things, or people want to bring opportunity to you and bring value to you as well. So on like a note for myself, it is putting me in a good position in my investing career to be leading this, but it's also fulfilling a passion I have of helping other women realize their potential, realize their dreams, and just connect with other women in a positive way.
No, I love it. And people want to find out about your InvestHER network and then yourself and follow your journey on the thing. How would they do that?
Instagram, West Invests is my handle. That's probably the most active I am, though I have been like kind of stepping back, just again, working on my mental health. And obviously social media can break you down in those ways. So I am on there though, and love connecting with people, so they can check me out there.
Awesome, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.